is influenced by Aleister Crowley. Sting says of his tarot cards, these cards were designed in the 1940s under the supervision of Aleister Crowley. They're quite stunning. Crowley was known in his lifetime as the evilest man on earth and the great beast. Sting has not only admitted being into Aleister Crowley, but has stated that Aleister Crowley's death card is his favorite card. The death card is a grim reaper who is also understood to be an agent of Satan or a representative of Satan himself. Sting says, "My favorite tarot card is death. Oh, here it is. How strange death should be right on top. Anyhow, I find it extraordinary how strong are the feelings this card inspires in me." David Bowie has been called by Time magazine the most influential of all rock musicians. This is because David Bowie is considered the greatest trendsetter in the history of rock music. Bowie was the first glitter rocker. He was also the forerunner of punk rock and the first to release disco music. He was also the first artist to announce to the media that he was involved in homosexual practices. David Bowie says when he was in Japan, quote, "All those little boys are so cute. I just want to take them up into my room." But few realize that David Bowie's success was a result of his Satanism. Bowie admitted, "My overriding interest was in Kabbalah and Crowleyism, that whole dark, rather fearsome netherworld of the wrong side of the brain." Bowie declared, quote, "Rock music has always been the devil's music. You can't convince me that it isn't." Bowie seems to believe that rock music is Satan's vehicle to usher in Crowley's dark satanic age. Bowie declared, quote, "I feel that we're only heralding something even darker than ourselves." He said, quote, "I believe that rock and roll is dangerous. It could well bring about a very evil feeling in the West. That's where I see it heading, bringing about the dark era." Bowie has also been known to draw satanic pentagrams on his walls and make hexes. In his song Quicksand, David Bowie sings about being closer to the Golden Dawn, an occult organization that Crowley once belonged to, and then he goes on to sing about wearing Crowley's uniform.
I'm closer to the Golden Dawn, immersed in Crowley's uniform of imagery. I'm living.
But Crowley's most effective tools for transformation are scores of different rock stars who are being used by demonic beings. Believe it or not, Daryl Hall of Hall & Oates, the world's most famous rock and roll duo, is also a follower of the teachings of Satanist Aleister Crowley and a professed homosexual. Daryl Hall admitted, quote, "Around 1974, I graduated into the occult. I also became fascinated with Aleister Crowley, the 19th century British magician who shared these beliefs. I was fascinated by him because his personality was the late 19th century equivalent of mine." Daryl Hall went on to say, quote, "I believe in the ability to change reality through will, and that is the definition of magic. I feel I have done that." He stated, "When I'm singing and in touch with the energy, that's the reason I'm in music." Geezer Butler of Black Sabbath, one of rock's most popular bands from the late 60s to the turn of the century, admitted, "I was putting upside-down crosses on my wall and pictures of Satan all over. I painted my apartment black. I was getting really involved in it, and all these horrible things started happening to me." Butler states, "There was a weekly magazine called Man, Myth, and Magic that I started reading, which was all about Satan. That and books by Aleister Crowley." Black Sabbath's reunion album liner notes state, quote, "Black Sabbath was launched in the U.S. with a party in San Francisco with the head of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey, presiding over proceedings. All of a sudden, Sabbath were Satan's right-hand men." Black Sabbath became one of hundreds of bands recruiting millions of young people to Satan, to go as far to give altar calls to receive Satan as Lord. Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden, one of heavy metal's most popular bands, admitted, quote, "We've referred to things in our music like the tarot and ideas of people like Aleister Crowley. Iron Maiden sings about such Crowleyan themes as human sacrifice." Crowley taught, but the bloody sacrifice, though more dangerous, is more efficacious, and for nearly all purposes, human sacrifice is best. Dickinson stated, we can play with conviction every night because we totally believe in the music we're performing. Aleister Crowley was a deceiver who lied to his followers by promising them freedom and all the while bringing them into satanic slavery. While Crowley claimed that his followers would be free through the practice of do what thou wilt, they were actually brought into satanic bondage, the worst kind of slavery and non-freedom in existence. Notice how Crowley's doctrine of thelema, or will, was really a subtle way of enslaving his followers to Satan. Satan is using countless rock musicians to initiate the masses into Crowley's teaching. Merciful Fate, on the title cut of their album Don't Break Oath, encouraged their oath like Crowley's to Satan. Next, Satanist King Diamond of Merciful Fate encourages their impressionable fan base to obey Crowley's satanic maxim of do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Led Zeppelin's leader Jimmy Page is also a fanatic follower of Aleister Crowley and his teachings. Page, who boasted hundreds of millions of fans, slipped in Crowley's satanic message, Do What Thou Wilt, on their third album on the Runoff Matrix. Jim Morrison, frontman of the biggest American rock band of the 1960s, is yet another Satanist who was influenced by the teachings of Aleister Crowley. Here we see Jim Morrison on the front cover of the Doors album 13 over a bust of Aleister Crowley. Morrison echoed Crowley's teaching of do what thou wilt, declaring, quote, there are no rules. Morrison stated, I'm interested in anything about revolt, disorder, chaos, especially activity that has no meaning. Crowley's message did not only influence rock bands like Ozzy Osbourne, Merciful Fate, Led Zeppelin, and the Stones, but also punk rock bands like The Clash. Crowley's influence extends far beyond rock music and punk rock, and extends into the realms of gothic and industrial music as well. The Cure is only one of several gothic bands who have been influenced by Satanist Aleister Crowley. Of course, no one should be surprised to find out that Satanist Marilyn Manson is a follower who has conformed to the teachings of Aleister Crowley as well. In Chapter 9, called The Rules, under his book called The Long, Hard Road Out of Hell, he quotes Aleister Crowley's maxim, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Sadly, many young people are very deceived today. Unbeknownst to them, many of their most favorite bands have either been influenced or are being influenced by Aleister Crowley and are promoting his teachings through their music.
You know I'm ready. Yes, rock steady.
Many think that bands like 311 are safe. Many of these bands mock Christianity and purport Crowley's satanic teaching. In fact, here on the inside cover of their album Transmitter, a closer look reveals Crowley's teaching, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Bands like 311 promote the use of drugs which open people up to the demonic spirit world, forbidden in Scripture as pharmakia. The drug epidemic, which has destroyed so many lives, made inroads into millions of homes through the drug revolution of the 1960s. This was not by accident. This was the result of careful planning of Crowley's disciples and doctrines which were vigorously promoted by the most popular musicians of the 1960s. Black Sabbath, who from the 1960s have been instrumental in turning countless of thousands of youth towards Satanism, did not leave any mystery as to whom they were serving when they titled one of their albums, We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll.
Begging mercy for their sins.
Black Sabbath was named after a satanic being that appeared to bass player Geezer Butler after he had already painted his house black and adorned it with upside-down crosses and depictions of Satan. This satanic being that appeared at the foot of Butler's bed is considered the fifth mystical member of Black Sabbath, who gave them the material for their first 3 albums.